what lessons have we learned in 2022 that we can use to create fair and equitable conditions for people to create more unity rather than division?
Yeah, well, I think, as Elle pointed out, the right, particularly the far right, does benefit from any sort of social, economic, or political dislocation or disruption. There's a significant amount of writing on how economic recessions benefit right-wing organizing. I think that, and like the organizing, it has an explicit purpose. Authorities in Germany just foiled or just made dozens of arrests across the country in relation to an explicit plot to overthrow the government. The group, reports have not made clear how imminent the plot was meant to be initiated, but it was a serious plot. They had a number of firearms, and their plans included dissolving and replacing the government and seizing state houses by force. Italy has elected effectively an explicit fascist government. Sweden has elected a far-right government. It's likely that we'll see increases in the deaths of people attempting to cross the Mediterranean. But so there's like the increase in right-wing organizing. Also, it has risen and can rise to a threat that attempts a sort of right-wing overt fascist revolution. And I think that the sorts of solidarity that can be employed to sort of defend people's well-being and fight for people's well-being in that regard can be very encouraging. One significant example from the past year, I think, is the New School strike, in which students occupied the university center in support of the part-time faculty. So students who weren't, workers represented by the union, but they occupied part of the university in support of their striking teachers, which ultimately forced the university to give some concessions. So I think that sort of solidarity that isn't sort of explicitly allowed within the law is going to be particularly important, because I think we really have to recognize that, like, the Canadian government, policing institutions across the country, Western intelligence agencies, Canada's international allies, these are not organizations or parties or institutions that seek the well-being of all people. Certainly not all people in the world, not even all people in this country. They serve their own interests, and that's it. Our path toward liberation is through these organizations, not alongside them. And so I feel that, the time is rapidly approaching where all these institutions will show their true wretched faces, even more so than they do now. Israel's apartheid regime is increasingly murderous every single day. Canada says nothing because it benefits Canada, and Canada's kind of engaged in a similar genocidal colonial project. So, how much criticism can they make? I think that, the time is coming where we will sort of all have to decide if we're going to stand in solidarity with the rest of the world or sort of stand in service of Western governments and interests. And, it's certainly clear to me what the right choice is.